All right, ladies, welcome to Revitalize Womanhood. And I have for you today the lovely Jaime Villalovos. She is just getting over you're right, you're almost getting over your book launch, your book tour, and everything. The
Yes,
book Happy
recovering.
and Strong came out in May.
Yep. Yep. Finally recovering from all of that.
Okay, ladies, Jaime is a hard hitter in her business in a field where, correct me if I'm wrong, but I get the feeling it was very masculine, male oriented. You had to work your way up as a woman and as the minority in this business. Is that correct?
Yeah, definitely. My first business was very male dominated industry. When I started in that first office, I was one of the only females, and I think I was the youngest as well. But there was no female leaders, not a lot of role models to look up to. And it's just the whole industry is very male dominated.
Yes. Well, and I want them to know about you as that person because it created you who you are now and to be able to have such amazing core values in the different aspects of your life. It helped you create those. So tell me a little bit about yourself and then I'll jump into that for my listeners.
Yeah, for sure. I grew up actually in Montana, a very tiny small town in Montana, and I was the oldest of six kids. And there's a big age gap between me and the middle kids, so I always felt this big sense of responsibility to be successful, to be an example, to look out for them. And we grew up very poor in a little trailer, kind of on the edge of town. So after high school, I realized there was no opportunities for women. There was no jobs even for women. I mean, maybe the post office lady would die. I don't, I mean, there was just no jobs at all.
Yeah.
So I moved out to California with the idea of working and paying my way through school. And I worked in corporate America for a while. And this was, young, single, didn't have kids yet. And I worked in a gym and a health club, and I managed several of the Bally's health clubs. And after about 4.5 years there, I kind of just knew that I wanted something more that I could have more control of my time. I looked at all of my supervisors that had been there 10 years longer than me, and they still had no control of their time. They had to, kind of revolve everything had to revolve around their job versus their family. And that's not what I wanted. I wanted to have my own business, or at least something again that I could put my family and my faith first. And so I started looking for things. I got my real estate license thinking that might be it, but realized real fast that it wasn't fun. It wasn't something I was passionate about, and there was a lot of things outside of my control. And then eventually, I met actually a wife of one of the guys in that company who had just had a baby, and she was at the gym, and I was kind of showing her around and helping her out. And she's like, "Oh, you're so nice. You're so good with people. Have you ever thought of doing something else?" And at that time, I was so hungry for change in my life. So I was like, yes, yes. What does he do? Let me introduce me to him. And so she introduced me to her husband, and I got started in that industry. And again, it was in the financial industry. So again, very male dominated. I didn't know if I could even do it. It was something that was very new to me. Finances and money was not something that I had gone to school for or anything, or really even had any interest in at all. But again, was very hungry for change. And I really liked it once I got there, the environment, the people. It was very family oriented. And to me, it was, again, being self employed and having my own schedule. So I started in that industry there. And again, with the goal of having my own business, having control of my time, being able to put family first and kind of have everything revolve around family instead of everything revolve around my job and my schedule there.
That's exactly what I get from you when I first met you, listeners, ladies. So Jaime welcomed us into her beautiful home in California. The very first time she met us, Sean and Rick had gone hunting together in Hawaii. So this was the
Yeah.
very first time Sean comes to her and says, "Hey, by the way, this family is coming to stay with us. We don't know them, but put on your happy faces." And they welcomed us and hosted us in their beautiful home in California. And that is absolutely the sense I got from you, from our conversations, from getting to just know you a little bit there, was that your family does come first. It is such a priority for you.
Yeah.
And I love that about you because you are such a rock star and you have climbed so high in your industry while being able to keep your family the most important part of your journey.
Yeah.
So one thing that just screams that to me is that you guys were able to move, uproot your family and move because you were feeling like the situation there in California wasn't as healthy as what's the word? I mean, as healthy. It wasn't healthy for your kids. They were starting to, instead of grow, they were starting to kind of shrink into what was happening in the school as far as curriculum and
Yeah.
everything like that.
Yeah, it was, California's getting a little weird for us. And I mean, I loved where I lived. I mean, you've been to that house. It's
Oh, it's
like
gorgeous.
paradise, right? And it's
Absolutely.
like I think the best place to raise a kid. But it got a little weird. There were some laws that were passed recently in California that were around children. Um, that I was just like, you know what? If this is what it's going to be like right now, what's it going to be like for my grandkids? If my kids graduate here, they have roots here, what will it be like then? And so I just thought, you know what? If we can, if we have the ability to move and live wherever we want, why would we be unhappy somewhere? And again, I loved it there, but I felt like I was getting angry about certain things. And I kind of have a bubble, you know what I mean? I have this bubble that I live in that's very positive, and I have amazing people around me and mentors and coaches, and I just it's, I like that we can be happy and that we can raise our family a certain way. And I just felt like that was kind of being infringed upon, and my kids were feeling a little uncomfortable with certain things, and just stuff was happening that was like, this is probably a good time to leave. And yeah, we did uproot. We moved all the way out. We live outside of Nashville now, and we love it here. But it was a big change, a big shift.
Big shift, and people are probably thinking, "Well, I can't do that. If my kids are feeling uncomfortable, I can't do that." But it's not even necessarily that. Yes, Jamie was where she could do this, but you have the ability to know what's happening in your children's curriculum. You have
Right.
the ability, and Jamie totally talked to me about this, and I was blown away by how much information she had about her kids' curriculum because I
Yeah.
don't. And where we're in Utah, it's still not as heavy, I guess, as
No.
what you guys are dealing with out in California. So
Yeah.
I obviously would be looking into it more if I needed to, but that is an option for you, ladies. That is an option to be very involved in your kids' school, be very involved in knowing who their teachers are, be very involved in who their friends are. You surround
Yeah.
yourself with the people that you want to influence you. So why wouldn't you want your kids to be surrounded by the people that you want to influence them?
Yeah, I think it's so important. I mean, first of all, there's most of the curriculum that was happening there and those changes, most of the parents have no idea. The only reason I knew is because I had a friend on the school board and I got to read it. I got to see it. And when it actually came to pass, when they were going to roll its curriculum out and the kids were going to see it for the first time, it was a small, tiny little PowerPoint with a few words on it, right? That's not what this, thick, huge curriculum that I read actually entails. So they said, here's what the PowerPoint is. And that was it. You can opt out. And unfortunately, in California, a lot of schools can't opt out. I was able to. And what I noticed was that seventh grade curriculum, the teacher opted her own son out. That should
That
be
speaks
that should
volumes.
be a big red flag. If their own the teacher who's teaching it wouldn't let her own son attend the class.
Yeah, that
So,
speaks volumes.
yeah.
That does. Rick and I are actually dealing with this in the tiniest form with Castle's going to be 11, and he got sent home the maturation topics. And so we get to watch this maturation video. And so Rick and I are sitting on the couch, like, ha ha ha, this is so funny. He's growing up and we're watching it and it was fine. And a couple things we were like, oh, okay. And
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a prude in any way, but when it comes to my kids, I absolutely am. I am going to fight
Yeah.
for them to remain kids as long as they possibly can. And there were some things in there that I was like, A, he doesn't need to know about this yet. B,
Yeah.
he doesn't need to be learning it in a classroom setting with a bunch of his peers around him. And how I want to be able to be there having him ask questions after, or you know what I mean? I want to take control of that environment.
Absolutely. There's two sides of it though, because there's the other side of it. They're saying, well, like there's a lot of kids that just aren't taught anything.
Yes.
And it's a scary thing for them, and sexuality and all these things. And so they're not learning anything at home. But I think that some of it's gone to extremes, and it depends on the school district. But some of them are teaching kindergarten level, they're talking about masturbation. And I don't
Yes.
care how sweet this kindergarten teacher is, I just don't think that it's appropriate that anyone is having a conversation about masturbation with my kindergartner child. That's stuff like that just is like, it doesn't make sense to me, that they've gone so extreme on certain things.
I was a dispatcher for 6 years, and just peeing on the side of the road can get you a sex offender stamp. Just pulling over and peeing on the side of the road. So how
Yeah.
is it that we're okay with kindergartners learning about masturbation?
Yeah. Yeah, and there's been teachers
That's
that have quit because they felt so bad
yes.
after having these little first graders or second graders or kindergartners watch these videos. And so they're forced to teach the curriculum, and if their district has adopted that. And then it goes all the way up to some of the districts at 4th grade are teaching how uh pornography is normal and everybody watches it. And so they'll watch little videos about pornography and say, it's just, just know that it's make believe, it's made up, like superheroes, like Marvel
Oh,
Comics.
let's just
So they're
that's wow.
comparing Marvel Comics
Yeah,
to
that's
pornography and saying, "Go ahead and watch it, and just know it's fake." But everybody does. Just like they tell the kindergartners, like, adults masturbate all the time too. They just do it in private. So make sure you do it in private. So it's they're normalizing sexual, sex at a very, much younger age. And I just think no matter what it is, I think that one of the biggest addictions and the hardest to overcome right now is pornography. And most people don't know this, but the pornography, one of the biggest demographics becoming addicted to porn is 11-year-old girls.
wow. I didn't
And
know that.
it's so scary that we would tell it, these 4th graders that's, a normal thing to go ahead and watch it. And so again, not all districts are doing this, but there are some out there that are doing it. And again, the teachers have to teach what they have to teach.
Now, I'm not a psychologist by any means, but for that to be the age, even scarier than the fact that they are learning it and addicted to it is to me, I think when you just said that, I thought it's because girls are wanting to have the body image. They're wanting to know what boys want. They're looking at social media and
Yes.
pornography and the medias that are absolutely wrong and distorted and not right in any way to gauge themselves on how they should be and how they should act and how they should that's even scarier to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, and of
S
course, everything good and bad information around those topics is accessible in their hand,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh
and
my gosh,
it's very,
yes.
very easy to find the wrong stuff. And,
There
and of course,
there's
then
there's a
there's predators
company oh,
out there
sorry.
too, looking for girls looking for that.
Yes, not even girls, like, the whole
Yeah,
Roblox thing, the whole Minecraft thing, the whole it's something that parents have to talk about a lot. We have a company here in Utah actually called Gab.
yeah.
And the founder of this company is amazing and so sad, sad story. He actually passed away. But
Oh,
this
no.
movement of new phones, yeah, so
Yeah.
sad. This
My kids all
movement of
have
these,
Gab phones,
yes,
and
yes,
they don't get a
these,
phone till they're 13. I know, like,
ours is
that sounds
14.
crazy,
Yes,
but I
no,
mean,
no,
I gotta
no.
protect my kids. So, yeah, they get a phone at 13, and it's a Gab phone until I know that they're mature enough with technology. And
Yes,
still, it's
absolutely.
still scary, that because even if they're not trying to find it, it can come it can they can find it.
It can find it. Yeah, exactly. Even if it's on accident, you can stumble into things.
Yeah.
That's what's unfortunate. Well, I want to come back to kids because that's kind of how you wrap up your book a little bit is with your
Mhm.
faith and with your family. But I want to jump back to the beginning of it with for my listeners that are these women that are struggling or
Yeah.
wanting to thrive in their businesses.
Mhm.
One of the things so I have bullet points here because while I was first of all, ladies, I read this book because I met Jamie while she was doing the Audible version of it. It was not out yet. So I read this book. And then, of course, knowing that I was going to get to sit and have this conversation with her, I listened to it again, got to listen to the Audible version, loved it. You were so stressed out about it. You were hating it. You were like, oh, this is just something that I just don't love. And I
Yeah.
love it. I love you singing to me "Let It Go" because that's Locke's favorite movie right now. So we sing it all day long anyway, and I'm like, now I've got Jamie singing it in my ear, I've got my 2-year-old singing it in my ear. It's coming at me everywhere. But so a couple of my bullet points that I just snagged out of here, there's actually way more, but we only have so much time. The
Right.
first one was be able to do without, make sacrifices. That is a
Yeah.
huge, huge thing for Rick and myself. We had to figure out this lifestyle, and it's not just for the week, for the month, for the year. It is a lifestyle of make
Yeah.
these sacrifices. And you
Right.
tell all these stories about how you were doing it to the point where your wedding was not what all the other girls
Not
you
a dream
were.
wedding
No, it
at
was
first.
not a dream wedding at first, exactly. So
Yeah.
tell my listeners a little bit about that and
Yeah.
being able to do without.
Yeah. Well, I think that there's so many people that have this idea of this ideal life that they want, or this dream business, or dream family, or these wonderful things. Or they go on social media and they see all these other people living, their best life, and they have all these aspirations. And a lot of times comparing can be detrimental. You're thinking about what you don't have instead of what you want. So you got to first get clear on what it is that you want, and make sure that that is, put that dream to the test and make sure that that's actually what you want. Because you don't want to be chasing something and making all these
Yes.
sacrifices for nothing. But success in business, in marriage, in anything demands that you pay a price. Just that price that you pay to win in business does not have to be your family, and it does not have to be your faith. But there will be things that you're going to have to do and sacrifices that you're going to have to make. And so I think a lot of people aren't willing to do that. I'll coach women and men all the time. They're like, "Yes, I want this and I want to go for it and I want to win as an entrepreneur," but then they don't want to maybe cut back on their expenses. I tell them, like, "Well, let's sell the house. Let's cut back there." "Oh, no, no. This house is my house. I can't leave my home, or I can't not go out to, dinner all these I'm like, "No, you have to cut back in the beginning so that you can focus. There's only so much that your heart and your mind can give its attention to. And so mine is faith, family, and business. And of course, you got to keep your wellness up too, because if you're mentally or physically not doing well, that's going to cause a big distraction in every other area of your life. So you need those, I call them my 4 F's, my 4 favorite F words: faith, family, fitness, and finance, right? And if you can have all 4 of those, you can eventually reach fulfillment. But there has to be sacrifices, and I'll tell some of the guys, I'm like, "I dare you to cut your cable or put your TV in the garage for a while." They're like, "Oh, no," or "I have this favorite show."
Yeah.
Then and all these time sucking bad habits of, vegging out in front of the TV, or, you have to go play golf every weekend, or, these things. Well, I said, "Can you hang up the hobbies temporarily? Can you put the golf clubs up temporarily so that you can buy the rest of your life back? So you'll be able to golf all Augusta and all the wonderful, dream destinations in the world." I'll tell these guys, but right now you don't have time for that. You only have so much time to be all in, and you have to pick those things that you want to be all in. Do you want to be a scratch golfer right now, or do you want to make money right now? Right? And so again, for me,
Yeah.
it's faith, family, and fitness and finance. And so, like Sean, my husband, he loves surfing and he loves hunting and all these wonderful hobbies. He's kind of a hobby guy. But for those first, I don't know, I want to say at least 4 years in business, he didn't surf. He put those hobbies away for a minute, and now we have this dream life for our family, and we do exactly what we want when we want to. We travel the world, we do all these things because we made a few sacrifices in the beginning. And that always sounds not fun, right? Discipline or sacrifice is always sounds like a hard thing, but I think that that's really what it takes to win. If you're here, you want to get here, closing the gap on the discipline, or maybe making a few sacrifices, is how you get there. And so I had to, like I said, my wedding, you talked about that. We didn't have any money. We Sean had to have his dad co-sign for our ring. We were broke. We were living in this little apartment, like a single apartment, and barely getting by. And so we said, well, we could, borrow money, or we could, have a crappy wedding. But we said, you know what? Our parent company, has a Hawaii trip that's coming up. let's just bust it. Let's just give it all we got. Let's just put it, go all in. He and I, and just like hit this goal to win this trip to Hawaii, and we'll get married there, right? And so the company paid for our trip. They paid for our hotel, our flights. They paid for everything. We just got married on the beach there. It actually wasn't that expensive as a destination wedding, and we didn't go into any debt at all. And so we started as newlyweds, focused with a common vision for our life, for our family, for our future, equally excited towards where we were going together without the debt, without, those things. And I think that that made a big difference because, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, especially if you have kids, especially if you're a mom, there's always distractions pulling at you. If something's wrong with one of your kids, it's hard to stay focused, right? So the last thing you need is financial burden stressing you out. So if you can free yourself up financially to just say, okay, I just want to go and I just want to pour my heart into this thing versus constantly the battle of, can I afford this? Can I afford that? That's why you got to cut back a little bit, make some sacrifices.
Absolutely. And you just described what we all think of as a win, 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 win. Okay. You
Yeah.
just crushed it at your business so well that they sent you to a dream vacation in Hawaii that paid for your wedding, that made it so you were debt free afterwards. That was
Mhm.
the perfect scenario. Rick and I have it's our family motto, and we learned this the hard way when we lost everything in the recession. But our family motto is live now like no one else lives, so that we can live later like no one else lives. And
Yeah.
we have absolutely crushed it at that, because that we gave up the things. I mean, Starbucks, as simple as going to Starbucks every day, that is the
Yeah.
dumbest thing I've ever heard. And it's glamorized on social media. And going to Target and spending all day wandering around. I love Target. Don't get me wrong. I love a Starbucks every now and then. Don't get
Yeah.
me wrong. But having a Starbucks every day, that's expensive. Having
Yeah.
going to Target and wandering around and going anywhere shopping just aimlessly, even grocery shopping, that's harm. That's a habit that
Yeah.
you need to break, because you're spending money that doesn't need to be spent.
Yeah.
So what can you do without? And the time wasters, which you rolled right into my next bullet point,
Mhm.
is simple things like you're saying, like, and not even hobbies, because our men, their hobbies are expensive, so they just need to get rid of those. I mean, to an
Well,
extent,
everything
they've got a
has its season.
lot.
Everything has its
Yes.
season, right? So Sean
Yes.
now has surfed all of his, dream destinations in Fiji and
Yes.
Tahiti, and we want to go to Bali next, and and we can do that, but we can do it without stress. We can do it
Yes.
on our own terms when we want to. We can take our kids whenever we want. We don't have to do it, when everybody else is taking holiday or whatever. And that's because just in those early years, we got clear on where we were going, and so it's hard to make sacrifices if you're not excited about where you're going, because that's just get doing without. That's no fun. But if
Well,
you are
and
very
being a
clear
team.
on the destination and you are both fired up about it, then it's easy to say, okay, I'm going to put that away for a minute and I'm going to bring it back in its season.
And yeah, you're accountable to someone else as well. If you guys sat down together and said, I agree, because Rick did. He sat down with me and he said, hey, we can have the big house, we can have the fancy cars, we can have this, or we can travel the world. And I was like, travel. Like, we already figured out what it felt like to lose everything, and it
Right.
wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, in the moment, yes,
Of course.
you feel crushed and you feel like your pride's gone and whatever. But
Right.
really, if you get past all that, it was the best thing that could have ever happened to us. It
Right.
just, it was, and you talk about this a lot in your book, is those negative things, if you can just have the right mindset to look at them as
Yeah.
opportunities to grow and not just as challenges, challenges, challenges. These are opportunities to grow. You
Yep.
will learn from them and you will become a better person for it.
Yep. We're all gonna go like we're not gonna escape life without hard things. Every
No.
all of us are gonna go through hard stuff. There's gonna be death in the family. There's going to be, struggles health wise, financial struggles. There's gonna be things that we're just dealing with, like with our own personal, body and mental wealth and just all kinds of stuff. But then there's all these things that could happen outside of our control, like pandemics now and crazy stuff.
Yes. Wow.
That's just hard stuff. And so I just think that that's part of life, and it's not going to happen once. It's going to keep coming around. But I've had a gal I coached where she's like, every time she would just fall apart and become this crybaby to me, and I'm like, look, these adversities keep coming because you're not learning from them. So you keep getting them because you just you run from them, right? And so when the adversity comes, it's hard to sometimes be grateful for it, but it is a gift. It's a gift for you to grow into the person that you're meant to be. Without it, it's very difficult to get there. We can do all these personal development things, and we can read books, and we can listen to great podcasts like yours, but it's still like the life lessons, those hard life lessons usually get us way further along than anything else. So they're there for our benefit. But again, when we're dealing with it and you're in the middle of it, you're like, why me? Right? Why
Yeah.
now? And so every Napoleon Hill is a great book called Think and Grow Rich, and he said every adversity, every, not some, not the this one or that one, but every adversity has within it the seed of equal or greater benefit. So the harder the adversity, the greater the benefit that you can get from it, but only if we look for it. So we have to be looking for it. We can't just fall apart. We have to be stronger enough to say, okay, this sucks. I don't want to be dealing with this, but what am I supposed to what is this gift supposed to be mean to me? What am I supposed to gain from it? And that's for me, every time I've gone through something where I'm just, you know, in tears and falling apart and like wondering how am I going to come back from this in business or anything else. Now I look back on it and I say, "Oh my gosh, well good thing that happened because now I wouldn't be able to help these people in my business do this." It was for me to learn to be able to serve others in a different way.
It's empathy. You had to
Mhm.
feel it to be able to empathize, not just sympathize, empathy.
Yeah.
But also, I love that you touched on back how she would come to you as a crybaby and you are like, "Come on, you are making these same mistakes." But also, okay, I get it. Give yourself a minute to fall apart. Fine.
Yeah.
Feel the feels. Give yourself that minute because if you don't, it will stick in you. It's toxic.
Yep.
Let it out. I agree. Let it out. But then
Yep.
at the end of that, the positive thinking, like Hayes is kind of fallen into, he's 8 now, and he's fallen into these whiny kind of like, mom, my neck hurts. It hurts real bad. Or mom, my leg hurts. Or he's falling into this like he's thinking he's going to get the attention. I think it's probably because of the baby, type thing. So
Uh-huh.
he's thinking that even the negative attention will get the attention. So he's falling into these traps. And I'm like, buddy, you have to look at things positively. Look at life because if you look for the
Yeah.
bad, you're going to find it. It's everywhere.
Right.
But if you're looking for the positive, that's what finds you because that's what you're projecting, that's
Yeah.
what you're manifesting and you're not noticing the negative and I don't know why it works. It just works. It's the power of positive thinking just
It
works.
does. Yeah, and it's, when you're whatever you're focused on, you attract more of. So if I'm focused on the positive, I'm gonna start to attract those things that align with those feelings. If I'm only focused on the negative, that's why I'm saying, like, we when we're down, it's hard. It's hard to not dwell on it. But we have to start thinking about if you can't think about anything that's good, like, just what am I grateful for? And it could be little things like, I'm grateful for the way my husband looked at me in the kitchen yesterday, or I'm grateful for that cute little face that my little baby made to me, yesterday. But
Yeah.
you're look, and it's just if you're looking for it, you'll find it. You'll find something positive, right? But one of the fastest ways to become happier, just happier in general, is expressing gratitude. So not just thinking about what we're grateful for, but actually expressing gratitude. So saying, I'm thankful for you because, or I'm, saying it out loud or telling someone how grateful you are to them. And it will immediately start to increase they've done studies on it, your happiness level. But when we're stuck on a problem, if we're going through an adversity, we're going through a trial, it's kind of like that's all we can focus on. It's this big problem right in our face. And that's kind of, it just expands. Whatever we focus on becomes expands, and it becomes overwhelming, and it's hard to see past it or around it or whatever. But if you can stay focused on where you're going instead of where you're at, what you're so excited about, the future family that you're going to have, the future life that you're going to have, business that you're going to have, if you can stay focused on that, the finish line, then the hurdles along the race are not so, you know devastating.
Daunting.
Yeah,
Yep.
and you can kinda start to take a step back and say, "Okay, this again is no fun, but who can who can I ask for help to get around this one? Maybe a mentor, maybe a buddy, maybe a friend, help me, maybe drag me across this one," or whatever you have to do, and you start to reach out and look for solutions because you're focused again on where you're going, not exactly where you're at and being stuck.
I swear I did not give you an outline of my show
Wait,
notes
can I
because
can I interrupt?
it's
Sorry, I know it's
Sean.
unprofessional. I'm messing up your podcast. I just haven't seen
Sean,
my wife in a week.
this
I miss
is
her so
this is
much.
me. It's me. I'm good with it. Come on in. The more the merrier. I'm good with it. I heard about a few of your adventures
Yeah.
and
Did Rick
wow.
think he witnessed a death?
Yes, he did, and he's like, "What's that movie where the guy's in a wheelchair looking through binoculars at the people?" And he's like, "I witnessed a murder." And Rick, he was like, "Wait, did I just see what I just saw? Someone just a body just flew off that four-wheeler." And he's like, "I see wheels spinning. This can't be good. This can't be good." And he was
Oh,
just
boy.
going crazy up there. He had no way to get down there or help, and he's just stuck in the wheelchair with the binoculars.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah, it was an adventure. Thanks for man, we had a blast. It was great to see him. I'll
I'm
let you get
so
back to it.
glad you
Sorry to
got to come
interrupt.
out. You're good, Sean.
Can't wait to hear the
And
story.
that's Sean, everyone. Yeah, there's some good stories. Rick came home and I'm just like, how do we let you go anywhere you've been and how do you survive it? That's the
Right.
question is how do you get back to us? Just don't tell us the stories anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, I was driving with my boys the other day, and they were starting to tell me something, and then they're like, "No, no, no, dad said not to tell mom that story. Don't tell her."
Oh, yep, they
So I'm
crossed
like,
over the man code there, and you're like, "Wait a
"Yep."
minute, because I know isn't he this could have something to do with dirt bikes, because I know Sean, and
Yep,
isn't he
it
wanting to
was.
be yes. Yes, okay. Well, what I was saying is that we were perfectly in line with my notes here because I love also you cannot believe from this when I was listening to it, I was just ding, 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 ding. I love this comment. I love this comment. I love this thought because that's basically what I'm setting up here in this community. It's
Yeah.
the women's version of what Order of Man has done so
Yeah.
well for the Iron Council. So I have been talking about keeping your goals on a vision board or however you want to have them, but you have to be able to look at that every day. I literally have my vision board as my screensaver. So every
Yep.
time I pick up my phone, it's my vision board.
Me
And
too.
yay! That's awesome. And you
Yep.
see it all the time. Not
Yeah.
it so if you can, like even my secretary, not my secretary, she's not my secretary, Rick's secretary, she even says she takes her planner home and opens it. She keeps it open on the counter at home so that she is constantly looking at what the next task is or what the next goal is or what, you know what I mean? It's never
Yeah.
closed. So this is you sit down together or sit down by yourself. I mean, however your family unit is, it might just be you right now, and you set up the goals and say, I'm going to make it here. And then you set up the little baby goals that what are the stepping stones that are going to get you there? And
Yeah.
it makes it so much easier than just like when I first started this and I sat down and I'm like, okay, where do I begin? I still have moments like that. I had my girl Janie called yesterday and we sat down and worked out some goals and she had to help me do
Yeah.
that because I have been out of the game for so long that it was overwhelming for me. But once I did, man, it was motivation and the wheels are going and
Yeah.
now I'm just so excited about it.
That's normal. I've coached so many men and women, but a lot of women, on this because uh, it's like their dream machine has been turned off. When we're little kids, we're like, I'm going to be an astronaut and I'm going to be this and I'm going to be that. And you dream
Yes.
about being a princess or whatever, but you have all these big dreams and nothing's impossible. But as we go through school and then we go through college and then we go through the workforce and then we go through just life, our dreams start to shrink and we're just in our day-to-day norm. And to turn that dream machine back on again, it's like, what do I want? And so I try to tell people, like, if you had a magic wand and everything you touched turned to gold, everything that you wanted just, it becomes easy. And and let's say a year from now, 2 years from now, it all comes about what would you want? What do you want your life to look like? And then, so kind of just having no limits on it at first, Because otherwise, when you're sitting down making your goals, you're basing it on you in your past. You're basing it on the person you are today, not the person that's grown over the next 2 years with personal development and associations and working on yourself. You're a different person 2 years from now. You're capable of different things. And so instead of basing it on who you were, it's just what do I want? No limits on my thinking. And the bigger the better, right? And then I always just kind of start off by sometimes Sean and I will do it together. We'll sit on our bed and say, okay, what do we really want? But I'll draw a line down the paper and then a line across. So there's kind of four quadrants. And again, faith, family, fitness, finance. Faith can be different things to different people. It could be, you want to grow spiritually, or it could just be you want to have contribution goals, or, giving, or just becoming a better person, personal development. Lots of stuff can go in that category, short term and long term. And then you have your family goals. And that could be as simple as like, I want to get this dude potty trained in the next 3 months, or to
Yes.
also huge long term goals of your family's vision. And then is fitness, like again, your physical and your mental fitness of things that you want to do to take care of you, your self care, all that needs to go in there. And then the last one, the finance category, is like your business goals, income goals, savings goals. It's how savings goals is in every single one of my business plans. But you just kind of have no no restrictions, and you can write anything, brainstorm. And sometimes I'll have couples do this that I coach, where I'll have them, I'll put a timer on. I'm like, okay, go 3 minutes in the fitness category, boom. And then next category, and then I'll have them share with each other to see how on the same page they are. And you're going to have your goals, and he's going to have his goals, and then you can come up with our goals, that common vision. And you know what, Sean, I don't want to go hunting. I don't at all. Even like surfing, I have no desire. Like that's his fun. That's not my idea of fun, or jujitsu. I mean, never. I'm not going to do that. Like, I don't want to do that. But that's his idea of fun. He has a goal right now of buying a bunch of cars for this barn that we have on our property. And I'm like, I could care less about any of those cars. I don't care. I don't. But if it fires him up and I see that spark in his eye and he's getting excited about something, I love to see that in him. So I'm going to be
Yes.
excited about it too. And it's going to be in my business plan too. Like, okay, we're going to get here. Once we reach this goal, you can buy that car or whatever. So it's just, you have to turn that dream machine on again. And the first time I did it, it was like, I don't know what I want. I mean, I want a backyard that's bigger. I couldn't think of anything. But now that now I'm like, I want a jet. I don't want to have to go through the TSA lines anymore or whatever. And it's
Yes.
just fun. But you got to get to a point, whether it's a vision board or goals and dreams that you're reading out loud every day, you have to get to a point when you see it sparks something. Like, you're fired up, you're excited, that again, about each of those little areas, about who you're becoming and the life that you're building.
I love that so much. And it was because I did. She said, "What's your goal for this?" And I was like, all of the logical mom life, everything was like, "Well, I guess it could be this." And she's like, "No, that's not big enough. No, So I
Yeah.
love the magic fairy godmother wand. This is
Mhm.
what you get. Boom. So you just touched on that things that get you fired up are some things that you're not interested in because it's Sean's dreams, but you're fired up about him because it gets him fired up. And that,
Yeah.
I mean, we just saw it. Sean got home from being gone in a way and he just busted in on a podcast to give his wife a kiss and say hi. And I love that so much because it does come down to there's no competition. It's a partnership.
Yeah.
And it's more than a partnership. It's I want you to have all the happiness.
Yep.
That's a good place to be in when you're self-confident enough that you can be so happy for other people. We kind of face that a little bit, and I'm sure everybody does. I mean, I know everybody does, but we
Yeah.
kind of face that a little bit when we set out to do our own thing and we left to travel around the world with our kids,
Yeah.
and we had a lot of people that we thought would be supporting us and like, yay, go, you did it. And really it was opposite, and
They're
it was
probably like,
like,
you're crazy. How could you even
yeah.
think to do
They're
something like
like,
that?
you're
Yeah.
spending all this time with you. That was one of the
It's
questions
because,
Rick got a lot. You want to spend time with your wife? Okay.
yes, people ask us all the time, like, how can your husband be, in business together? And
Because
I'm
we
like, how
love
can
each
you not?
other.
I'm like, how can
Yes.
you not? Yeah. So when we were started out in business, they said we were crazy. When we decided to move, they're like, "Are you crazy?" That's happened so many times, and it's not. It's just because it's outside their comfort zone. And unfortunately, our closest friends and family, they love us, and we're part of their comfort zone. So when we start to grow and become different people, that makes them feel uncomfortable. Like I'm sure you've heard that story of how they catch crabs, right? The fishermen catch crabs, they have these big cages and nets, and they pull them up onto the boat. But then all they have to do is stick it in uh, a little cooler, and they could very easily crawl right out of that cooler. But every time one crab tries to escape, the rest of the crabs grab him and pull him back down. And
Oh,
so it's just their mentality, and that's human beings a little bit too. When one of us starts to like get big dreams and get excited about something, or start a new podcast, or start something that's going to maybe bring them joy, a new business, they're like, "Are you crazy? You're going to travel around the world and have your kids in a car with you?" And it's just
yeah.
outside their comfort zone, number 1, but number 2, you're leaving them, and they're trying to
Yeah.
pull you back.
That's interesting. I've never heard that one. I love it. That's
Yeah.
interesting. So, also you talked about, and I took this to heart, was because you don't see it happening while it's happening, but how you used to say you'd be frustrated, and so you'd come home and need to vent with the man that you love and somewhere safe. It was a safe space, so you would
Yeah.
vent and get out all your frustrations and everything, and you finally realize it's like, "Why am I doing this to him? He doesn't need to be burdened with all of this heavy and trying to like, what is it, the saying where they add boulders to
Yeah.
their weight that he already has. He's like, okay, I'm going to take this on for Jamie. She needs to vent. I'm going to
Yeah.
carry her boulders too. And it's like, why would you do that to the person that
Yeah.
you love? Let that stuff
Exactly.
stay where it needs to stay. It's like shutting the door when you get home from the office. It's like closing doors.
Mhm.
Once you're
Yeah.
home, it's home time. Be
Yeah, that needs
happy.
to be a sacred
Yeah.
place, where everybody can feel safe and loved, and want to be there together. But yeah, no, I would like, did you know that this happened today? And then this guy, and then this. And it was more than boulders for poor Sean. It was like he was in a building, and then the plane crashed into the building and everything fell on top of him. That's kind of where I had him. And I'm like,
Poor
all right, I
guy.
got to remove the plane. I got to rescue this guy, right? But I was because he was the one that I trust. He's
Yep.
the one that I feel the most comfortable with. Of course, he's the one I'm going to vent to. I'm not going to do that to the people that I coach in business, or,
No.
and so some of us have, a best friend, or, someone that we can just talk to about anything. And then some people don't. And for Sean, that was the guy for a long time. And I've had to tell people, like maybe you need to go get a therapist to vent to or something, because,
Yeah.
and that's okay if that's what you need,
Yeah.
because it's not that you come home and then just dump all your crap on your spouse. You guys are partners. And you guys, again, you want him to support you, especially that's going to be really hard. How
Yeah.
would you, if let's say you're starting a business and you come home to your spouse and just say, this sucks and this is terrible and this is terrible. And then you want him to give you referrals, or to, it's hard because they're like, well, she doesn't even like it. I kind of want her just to stop if she doesn't like it this much, maybe. And then they'll
Yes.
start to say things to you like, hey, you know what? You don't have to do that. You don't have to. We don't need the money. We don't need you know, the kids probably need you here even more. And now this guy that you really wanted to support you in this wonderful, venture that you're excited about, is now kind of being like pulling you away from it, not meaning to, but it's because he loves you.
He's
So when
trying
I
to
have
support you still.
yeah, he's trying to support you, but it's not helpful.
Yeah.
And so what I've done is I've learned to, no matter how busy my day is with kids stuff, and I have 4 kids, 7 to 17. I have my hands full all the time with different sports things and different stuff. But I also have a business, and I have offices all over the country, Canada. I have about 6,000 people that I kind of mentor in just one of my businesses. So there's always a lot going on, right? But no matter what, no matter how hectic the day is, no matter how busy the day is, my last appointment for the day is Sean. So I'm not going to just come home and like throw myself on the couch and pull the covers over my head and suck my thumb and cry. It's instead, if a client called, or, some big client that you're trying to, to work on or something called you, and it was like even 9 o'clock at night, you probably, even if you were dead tired, you'd pick up that phone and be like, "Hey, how's it going?" Right? Or you
Yeah,
would, you would give your energy. So why not do that for the person that's the most important person in your life?
absolutely. Yep, absolutely. Taking it to heart. Taking
Yeah,
it to heart right now because I am I mean, we are. We're going through a lot of things right now. It's very confusing for us. He's trying to be a stay-at-home dad. I'm trying to go back to the office. It is. We're finding our rhythm again,
it's hard.
but it is. It's hard, but I really did. I took that to heart and I loved it. So, while we're into the family, I've got I love that you have your kids. So our kids have chores and they earn money and we do that. But you have a different spin on it. I love that the one story you talk about your little guy and he will just wear his dirty clothes because he doesn't want to wash his clothes, but that's fine.
So gross.
That's fine. You know what? But you're giving him that option. Is that and then is it was that the same one that turned around and cleaned his whole room like from
Yeah,
top to
it's the
bottom,
same one.
scrubbed everything? Oh my heck.
Yep.
See, so you're giving him the freedom to make his own choices there, and that's huge. I think
Yeah.
my hardest thing for that is letting go of it. Let it go, right, Jamie?
Right?
My hardest thing is the dishwasher doesn't need to be loaded a certain way. It doesn't.
Yep.
Okay. The socks in the drawer, who cares? Here's my one tip for all of you new moms. You don't fold pajamas. You don't fold onesies. They get shoved into a
Yeah.
basket. Yeah, like that's let it go.
Yeah.
And I
I
love
had
your
a
take
a
on it.
friend I had a friend who was a mom. She had 5 kids under 5 years old. One was a set of
Oh,
twins, and the rest were just all back to back, and she's like, "I think my husband was about to admit me to a mental institution." And so she, like, just put bins in her garage, and they were like, "This is the socks, and this is the whatever," and so they would just go pick their stuff out of there, and I'm like, "Okay," like, so it made me feel, like, a little better about my situation that she was just like, "Go get your stuff and throw it in there," and they didn't even fold it, but, so for me, like, you're talking about my chore charts and the stuff that we do, and,
yes.
I've learned that from, different mentors and stuff, but I just, again, a busy mom, 4 kids, business, different things. And I just don't want anything that's going to steal my joy as far as like nagging kids. I don't have time for it. And there's enough between like little sibling rivalry stuff that drains me. I don't want to be nagging for chores. Right. So I just have a chore chart. And they start it at 8, but, like, I have a 7-year-old that's, like, really into it, so he's already doing it, but it's not because 'cause I'm, like, pressuring to do it, but at 8, they have to. At 8, they all do all their own laundry, and they're responsible. So but it's not necessarily a chore chart, it's more of a responsibility chart. So they have their, like, morning responsibilities, meaning they get themselves out of bed, they all get themselves up with their alarm clocks, they brush their teeth, they get dressed, and they get out to the bus on time without me having to nag. Then check. They get to check off that they did their morning stuff. Then they have their after school chore, and that's could be, whatever chore needs to be done besides their normal cleaning their rooms and stuff like that. And I assign different things each day. Then they have their dinner time chores, and that's I think everyone lives in this house, so it shouldn't just be me cooking all week long while Sean was gone. They all took turns cooking. I didn't cook once. It was awesome, right? So I just, they different people cook, but there's always a dinner responsibility. So if one person cooks, the other one's cleaning up the kitchen, or another one's loading the dishwasher, another one's setting the table or chopping vegetables, whatever. And then their bedtime chores are, again, they get themselves in bed and they stay there. I have 2 kids that, oh my goodness, they just don't stay there. They just they have every excuse in the world. They're like masters at coming up with reasons they have to get out of their bed to, oh, I forgot to take my vitamins today, or I forgot to whatever. And so if they do each of these things, they get, their money. And so I don't give them money for other things. That's how they earn their money for whatever their extracurricular, whatever they want to do. And so it teaches them responsibility. They still have to do it. So if I nag them, they still have to do it, or if I remind them, they just don't get paid for it. Does that make sense? So
Yeah,
I'm just kind
exactly.
of opposed to like, I'm opposed to like paying kids to, you know, clean the house when they live here too. They, I mean, like that's their responsibility. And plus, like taking out the trash. Do I want to pay my kids to take out the trash? Well, then I'm teaching them to be a garbage man. I'd rather pay my kids for becoming responsible humans that are, serving their family, but also I'll pay them for other things like reading self-development books or stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, so this is something that I don't know how many of you, I know a lot of us here in Utah know this, but so the LDS religion has missionaries, and this is something that I love, love, love for the youth is they get to go out for 2 years and be away from their
Mhm.
family and serve a mission for their church. But while they're doing this, guess what they're doing? They are doing their own laundry. They are cooking for themselves. They are learning how to be exactly what Jamie's saying, but she's starting at 8. And that is
Yeah.
exactly where it should start. My first husband was a perfect example of did not know how to do laundry, did not know how to cook any food, did not and they sent him off to college on a baseball scholarship, and guess who was close enough to be the one doing those things? Me. It wasn't my job to be doing that.
Oh, boy.
It but it fell on me. It was not my job. He is a grown man. He should be doing that. And you are starting at 8. And I love that.
Yeah.
You're okay. So I talked about stay at home moms. You're not just a stay at home mom. You are the CEO of a hotel chain or a hospitality business. You have got to figure out how to run this home like a business. And you are doing that, Jamie. You're running this home like these are your little employees, and they have to learn to be accountable and responsible. You know, the company
Yeah.
Villalovos, you have to learn how to be
Yeah.
part of this family because it's true. It's not up to mom to just be doing everything all the time and schlepping everything around.
Yeah, and some of your audience may be thinking like, "Well, that's I have teenagers now. How do I go backwards to get
Start.
them to do
You
this?"
start.
Or maybe how do I get started? But what I did was I just had a family council meeting and I wrote out every single bill in our house, every expense. And these guys were little when we did this. And we just went through this and we're like, this is how much we have to pay for the water. Daisy was fascinated by the fact that we had to actually pay for the water that came out of the tap. She's like, really? Like every drop you have to pay for? I'm like, yes, every drop you have to pay for. And so we went through all the bills and I said, it's my job and dad's job to make sure these bills are paid and we have a house. And so we have to work. What's your job? And they said, well, I don't know. And I said, well, your job is to work hard in school. That's your job right now, but also to help contribute to the home. So what are things that we could do? And so, and I have a book, just like a little folder on the front of it. It says like chores and it has age appropriate chores. So like for toddlers, for even if he's not 8, he still has to be doing some work around this place, right? And those are great because they have little hands and they can reach little spaces that we can't get to. And so I think that work can be a great thing to teach your kids. And especially if we can do it in a way that there's again not a struggle, a power struggle or anything.
It gives them self-worth. I think if you start
Yeah.
young enough, absolutely it gives them self-worth. My first favorite one that I always give my kids is baby wipes and baseboards.
Yeah.
Go around the house
Mhm.
and wipe all the baseboards with baby wipes. I use baby wipes for everything. It doesn't hurt them. It's not toxic. The baby sucks on them. Like, just if you're nervous about anything, a baby wipe will clean anything. Just start with
Mhm.
that. And if you are already a teenager or your kids are already a teenager, what's that saying? Yes, the tree, it would have been better if you planted this tree 20 years ago, but it's
Mhm.
going to be better in 10 years that you planted it now. You start
Yeah.
somewhere. You just start. It doesn't matter where you start, just start. So I'm sure Sean has his nose up against the door, like, Jamie, come out and play. Come see me. So I will let you go. I know you are such a busy lady.